Throughout history, women had not only faced deep agony regarding their societal roles, but also persistently fought to gain their gender equality. From Little Women to The Great Gatsby, the consistent struggle of women to make sense of their position in society is illustrated as compared to the 1820s. The 1920s introduced an era of independent women diverging from the existing selection. In such a setting, Marmee should express apoplectic anger and scold Daisy to get rid of her highly dependent nature on men and instead vilifiate the phrase, "Let us be gosh and live," since the evolving role of women in society in the Roaring Twenties offers opportunities to challenge the definition of stereotypical gender roles that her daughters didn't have, and because the proper women of the 1920s are heartened to become self-sufficient, which would help Daisy reach her highest potential and start a happy life. To begin, Marmee of the March Sisters should be furious about Daisy leaving her men to make decisions that she is responsible for, as the Roaring Twenties is the perfect timing for the turmoil of common roles of women. Unlike the previous 1820s, ambitions that the woman had previously covered up became more readily available to accomplish. Thus, Marmee should shame Daisy for missing opportunities to achieve her American dream by pursuing her heartfelt ambitions, because women in the 1820s had no such means to do so. Amy March quotes that, "Ambitious girls have a hard time, Laurie, and often have to see precious opportunities go by." Alcott 502, which is an accurate description of the era of 1820s, a time where women are not expected to own any property. Their passions are only acceptable if they fit into the conventions of society, unlike Roaring Twenties, highlighting another aspect of women's roles, marriage. In Little Women, marriage in the 1820s are described as halves one's rights and doubles one's duties, Alcott 488. However, Daisy's era of the 1920s suggests a more vibrant hue of women's roles. The 19th Amendment in specific granted women suffrage. The right of the citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. U.S. Constitution, Amendment 19. The ideal of the new women are introduced as the revolution in manners and morals was accelerated by the growing independence of American women. Friedman. Moreover, it is said that the ability of women to perform these male-coded activities proved their rejection of their subordinate status men had given to them. Bradley, 52-53. Meanwhile, Daisy Buchanan, who is the stereotypical married wealthy woman of the 1920s, achieves dreams through men. All the time, something within her was crying for a decision. The decision must be made by some force of love. Fitzgerald 125. As a result, it is self-evident that Marmee should be irritated by Daisy's conservative woman behavior, as her actions only seem to reflect the submissive March sisters living in the 1820s. On the other hand, some might argue that the age of transcendentalism upholds similar ideals to the Roaring Twenties. Civil War inevitably tested the boundaries of female behavior. With men away in war, many women assumed greater responsibilities, Silver 11. Thus, they would continue that Marmee of the Little Women should have been less harsh to Daisy about not taking chances, since the March sisters would have had similar opportunities to what Daisy had in the 1920s. However, since the post-Civil War era forced women of both sections into new and unsettling circumstances, Civil 11, it is clear that it was too early in the timeline of the struggle of women's roles in society. Thus, Marmee should furiously give her the advice of "let us be gosh and live," for unlike the March sisters in the previous era, the new women are placed in a perfect setting to not be hesitant in refusing and changing the traditional stereotypes of women's roles in society. Moving on, Marmee of the Little Woman should demand Daisy to become an independent woman immediately, since they were thought to be proper of the era of Roaring Twenties. F. Scott Fitzgerald, the author of The Great Gatsby, promotes independent characters as victorious through Jordan Baker, a representation of the new women that are self-sufficient enough to not depend on a man. Miss Baker's exhibition of complete self-sufficiency draws some tribute from me, Fitzgerald 7, contrasting almost strikingly with Daisy's belief in the attitude of women in the Roaring Twenties. Daisy even says, "I'm glad it's a girl, and I hope she'll be a fool, a beautiful little fool." Fitzgerald 14. At first glance, one may even believe that Daisy is from the 1820s instead of the Roaring Twenties, due to her beliefs that women should be obedient to men. For this reason, Marmee should exclaim, "Let us be gosh and live," and hustle Daisy to step up and become self-sufficient like her best companion, Jordan Baker. It is true that Marmee had grown up in the Transcendental era and is accustomed to seeing an ambitious girl than to give up her own hopes, Alcott 476. As women's roles evolved through the ages from 1820s to roaring 20s and has a mother who readily conforms to the expectations of society, she should consistently whip Daisy with her hard shoulders and to become independent and proper for the 1920s and to live a life unlike her eldest daughter Meg, who had to keep account of every penny and remember that she was a poor man's wife. Alfred, paragraph 12. In conclusion, Daisy, the cliché of submissive upper-class woman of the 1920s, should be scolded harshly by Marnie of the Civil War era regarding the evolving roles of women in society in order to reach her full potential in the cost of tears, for it is finally time for change in women's roles in society and to achieve her ambitions without hesitance. Who knows, in the long run, Daisy might be even able to begin a life where she's actually loved.